So, got it. And now I go to my Facebook page and it should be live. To change the settings so we're actually live. All right, now we're live. Okay, very nice. So hello everybody. I'm so super excited right now. You can see it, I think, or hear it through my voice and my face and everything. So with me here in the room, I have my partner in everything SKY Youth programs, Natisha, and my TTC buddy. TTC for you is teacher training course buddy, and a good friend of mine, Anant.
Yeah. Everyone.
So today we're going to be generally chit-chatting, hopefully gathering a lot of information, picking Anand's brain basically to find out, hey, what kept you on this, SKY journey? I don't know about you, but for me personally, when I start something, I get bored very easily. For me to stick to something for a long time, there has to be some magic dust, right? So what is that pixie dust or magic dust that Anant experienced? We'll get to hear. But before we hear anything from Anant, let me introduce you, Anant, and all of his amazing accomplishments, right? So Anant lives in New York City, and where he's been for the last 4 years. And he's actually pretty much lived all around the globe, like Bahrain, Dubai, London, Hong Kong, and now in the US. Aren't we lucky he's here in the US with us? I think we are. Yeah. Okay. While growing up, he was captain of the Bahrain National Cricket Team through the age groups of under 11 and under 19. So all my middle school and high school kids perk up. This guy led a national cricket team. Okay, now Anant did his undergraduate degree. All of my high schoolers were getting ready for college apps. He did his economics degree from Cambridge University in the UK, and then went ahead and got his MBA from Wharton Business School here in the US. He's currently working with JP Morgan Chase as part of their strategy team. Now, Anant started meditating at the age of 7. Can you wrap your head around that? My God. I thought I've been meditating for a while. I said, I've been meditating for 21 years. And Anant is so much younger than me. I said, I'm definitely going to be meditating longer. But turns out, dude, he's 2 years too senior to me. I was like, what? Okay. Anyway, he says, we'll find out more about how he stuck to this whole meditation practice and all of that, right? Anant, you're ready to share all that with us?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. Guess what? He not only started meditating early, he went on, and with me, he's done the teacher training program, and now he's ready to train adults, right, in the meditation. So there's definitely some value to whatever this practice is, and let's find out. So we are here on our first ever in the series of talks called My SKY Journey. So Anant, over to you. Tell us all about your SKY journey.
All about it. So thank you very much for the kind introduction, Radhika. I think you're far too generous with your words. I think yes, it started at 7, and at that age, obviously, I'm not making many of my own decisions. My mother said, "You're going to do this course." I said, "Okay, I'm going to do this course." No two second thoughts about it, and I enjoyed it. At that time, it was the Art Excel course. Now, Little Angels, and it has various names, have come along. But really, at that point, it's obviously not deep meditation that we as adults do nowadays, but it's very tailored and specific to what children need at those ages. And for me, I just stuck with it. I just kept doing the practice. I kept doing the courses as I got older, which were more age appropriate. And what I found was, it was, yes, we think, oh, I have to take extra time out of my day to do this, another 20 minutes to do that. But actually, those 20 minutes gave me so much more time during the day. As a hyperactive kid, I was doing sports, I was doing academics, obviously. I'm trying to keep up with my social life, trying to be cool, because that you need whatever, that takes a lot of effort when you're in high school. And so all these things added up and they take a lot of energy out of you. But just by spending those 20 minutes every day, I noticed I was able to balance all these things so much easier and was able to give my 100%, at school. I'd get home, change, go to sports, 100% there, get home, change, shower, then 100% of my homework, and then my social life. And I noticed this because the days that I didn't do it, or sometimes there would be periods of time, there were weeks, sometimes months would go by when I just felt, I'm just too busy. I don't feel like doing it. There's these other things which sound more fun to do, and I'd rather do that. Those were the days where I felt lower energy. I didn't quite feel myself. I didn't feel as clear in my mind. And so that was why I just kept coming back to the practices, to the breathing, and wanting to go deeper and find out, if this is what I'm able to do with just the basic techniques, how much more can I unlock with more advanced techniques? And so that's what's led me to today. That's why I decided to become a teacher over COVID. I said so many people can benefit from this of all ages. I benefited from a young age. I was lucky, but people of all ages, it's never too late. And that's why I became a teacher.
Super cool. Super cool. But Nitisha, oftentimes when we are talking to parents, aren't we getting a whole lot of excuses, sort of, Anant has actually pretty much summed it all up, how it has benefited him and the contrast between the days he did the practice versus not and all of that. But many a times I have parents, I'm sure you've heard it too, Anitisha, saying, oh, my child is so busy. They don't have time for this. For a parent who would ask something like that, what would you say, Anant? What would you say?
I think parents play such a big role in this. For me, my parents were the ones that helped keep bringing me back to, hey, you should do your practices. Trust us. It'll take 20 minutes of your day, but it doesn't. Yes, the 20 minutes don't come back as 20 minutes. Yes, you still spend 20 minutes of your day, but as a kid, those first 15 years of your life, to 18, 21 years of your life are just so formative in your developmental journey that you have to be very deliberate about your time and how you spend it. Spending those 15, 20 minutes, maybe, a little bit longer playing games or a little bit longer doing maybe a little piece of homework. Sometimes we spend a lot more time on homework just because we have the time. If I have 3 hours to finish a piece of coursework, I'll spend 3 hours. If I had 2.5 hours, I would spend 2.5 hours. So why not spend the 2.5 hours and those extra 30 minutes, do my meditation, do my breathing, because that is going to help make those other 2.5 hours so much more productive. I'll be able to think clearer. I'll be able to get my task done quicker. So when we say we're busy because something is taking that long to finish. But if you're able to finish it faster because you're mentally more alert, you're mentally more fresh, you're able to think faster, you're able to problem solve quicker, then you're suddenly less busy because it doesn't take the 3 hours, it'll take the 2 hours. And so it actually will help relieve that busyness that we think that we are. And this is not only as kids, this is something that I experience today on my day-to-day basis still, even at work, in the workplace. The mornings that I'm able to do it before I go to work, do my practices, I get through my meetings better, I am more productive, I'm able to get my work done, I actually leave work earlier. Whereas the days that I don't, I feel a lot slower. I end up working later. I'm like, oh, I'm so busy. It's actually, it might sound counterintuitive, but spending that time early will actually help you create that time.
No, very well said, Anant. This is what I've personally experienced in my life too. Is you recognize the values the day you don't do it. When you're doing it, you're like, this is regular, and when you start taking it for granted and you don't do it, that's when it actually hits you right there. I often get this question from parents for kids is like, and there's a fine line there where you don't want to push your child to do these practices. It needs to come from within, but you want to inspire them. So what do you think? How did your parents work that balance, or how did you personally work that balance? That you got inspired that this is kind of helping me. When you're young, you need instant gratification, right? Like I do this and I get this, which does not necessarily happen with these practices. Like it takes time. So how was that journey for you?
For me, I'll use the sports analogy, right? A lot of people play sports. You don't have to be at a very serious level, but just think about when you're trying to prepare yourself for a game. We think about the physical aspect so much. We think about, oh, I have to go to the gym, I have to work out, I have to train, I have to go on the court or the pitch or the field, and I have to just practice the physical aspect of the game so much to get better. And no doubt, the practice on the physical aspect is necessary. But when you're in a match or a game or in a situation, sports or outside of sports, the first thing that needs to happen is you mentally need to think of whatever you need to do next. And mentally, if you're not in a calm state of mind, you're not in a way to think clearly, doesn't matter how good your physical preparation is, that can go to waste, and you won't be able to maximize the potential of all that physical hard work as well. So for me, I just kept reminding myself that I can do all the things that I want, everything else right, building up to my physical preparation. I can, be it for sports, train hard, etc. In academics, I could revise and study and read all the notes 10 times over, all great. But in the moment, if my brain isn't thinking straight, if it's not clear, if I'm not alert, if I don't have that energy inside me to really go after it and solve that problem, all that other preparation is a bit of a waste. So that's what I kept reminding myself in all aspects of my life.
Oh, very well said. That's such a beautiful way of looking at things. So yeah, that's very well put, Anant.
Anant, I have a question for you. Now, your bio, we shared with everybody. By the way, there are about 9-10 people watching live. Hey, everybody who's watching live, welcome. If you have any questions for Anant, please put it in chat so we can see you. You can wave or something. I'm not able to see who is watching. Usually Facebook tells me who's watching, but right now I can't see it. But anyways, Anant, this question I have for you. Now, with sports, two things actually. One is about leadership. How do you take on that responsibility at a young age? And you've been like team captain from age 11 through 19, so all through middle and high school years. And how was that experience for you? And how specifically did SKY help it, or ease through that? And then the second part, or second question I have for you, is about injuries. What about when playing sports is not easy? I have two boys. They're both athletes. They play basketball. I know that's the only ball sport that you have not played, but anyway, but my boys always tell me, Amma,
I think we lost Radhika.
Yeah, maybe you can start with the first
Yes.
question.
I can start on the leadership question. So leadership for me, again, was clarity of mind. So that I think I've spoken about a little bit already. You need to have that to be a good leader in a moment, in a situation, to make the right decision. For me, the other aspect though was what the techniques and the meditation all gave me was a sense of self-confidence. And to be a good leader, you need to have a level of self-confidence. You need to not doubt yourself about the decisions you're making. You need to be secure enough in your own abilities that you can also be a good team player. You can solicit the input from people around you. You can make the right decision as opposed to just a decision. And so that's what these techniques kept giving me. It's a solid foundation, an unshakable confidence that no matter what, things will be okay. And I also have trust in myself that I'm thinking about things the right way and I'm getting the right input from the people on my team where needed. So that's, for leadership, it was instrumental. The courses themselves, we do so many leadership exercises in the courses as well. So it's not only just the skills that you take away from the course, but also just in the courses, we put people in leadership situations. And so you get used to it. You start building that muscle and that memory so that when it comes to a key decision moment, you feel comfortable. You're like, hey, I've done this before. I've handled ambiguity. And so that's another aspect, right? As we get through leadership, well, what is leadership? Leadership is, at the end of the day, you're helping steer a group of people towards hopefully a common goal. And along the way, there's a lot of ambiguity. We could go left, we could go right, we could go straight, we could go sideways. So being comfortable in that ambiguity and that uncertainty, that's what this meditation, these breathing techniques helped me stay calm, helped me have that self-confidence on whatever decision was being taken. On the injury part, definitely had my fair share. In fact, I'm still feeling it, even though I haven't played professionally for maybe 10 years at this point, I still have lasting injuries from my career. And so, what is injury? Injury is all about, not about whether you get injured or not, it's about how you come back from that injury. And again, the first stage, any doctor you speak to will say the first part of recovering from an injury is the mental aspect. Are you committed to recovering from it? And how strong are you mentally? The body is great. The body is this amazing organism. It can adapt and recover and fix itself and mend itself without us even having to do anything. But the mental aspect is so key for that being successful. And so that's why, recovering from injuries, always keeping that mental attitude, that positivity, it all came from this unshakable confidence that I have these techniques, this meditation, and even just a broader sense of knowledge about the world, which again, we talk a lot about in some of our courses. Retaining that sense of knowledge and that ease and sense of direction was something that kept me so strong and able to recover from injuries a lot faster as well.
Okay, I'm back. My internet is
Welcome
so
back.
sad, but thank you. But what I'm seeing is Facebook is still live, so that's cool. So I have a lot of questions from students and from kids that are watching. Ready to take them? Okay. So first question is from Ruma. Ruma is a parent, and she says, "How has SKY affected your athletic experience?" I think you sort of summarized it. Also, do you have anything else to add to that?
I think the SKY, it tells you that there's so much more to life, and it gives you such a broader sense of perspective than often what we pay attention to. We focus on the small things around us so much. We focus on, oh, this person said that to me. Oh, I heard this feedback. Oh, why did this have to happen to me? I got caught in traffic. All these small things happen to us throughout the day. And SKY just helps always remind me of the perspective that there's something bigger. There's a bigger purpose to life. There's a bigger picture about what we do with ourselves and our time. And so that translated to my athletic context as well. Always remembering that, hey, I remember one of my early experiences was in an under 11 tournament, and we got to the finals and we had a chance of winning the entire competition, and we blew it as a team. We completely, we were going well the first half and we completely threw it away in the second half. And it was painful because we knew on any other day we would have had the ability to win that and win the tournament for the first time in our country's history. And so that was always, there are two ways after that. You could take this mental burden of, oh no, why did this happen to me? Why, we'll never recover from this. I'm a terrible athlete, et cetera, et cetera. You can go down that path. Or you can say, okay, this happened. This was potentially meant to happen for a reason. Let me take the lessons from this and apply this to the next tournament, and let's improve from this. And just that mindset shift kept popping up throughout my career, and until this day as well. And so that, I think, is one place where it really shaped my experience.
That is beautiful, Anant. Beautiful. Now, the next question is from Tanish Shanoy. And Tanish is one of our SKY teens. And he says, what tips do you have for students in high school?
High school, there's a lot going on, right? High school, we've got to think about just studies and academics and passing exams. You have to think about college applications. You have to think about sports. You have to think about social life. As I said earlier, maybe your first boyfriend, girlfriend, like all these things are happening, right? And your body's going through its own changes and you're trying to figure out everything. And you're starting to make more adult-like decisions, because within a couple of years, you might be on your own, you're living on your own. And what does that look like? It's a very different ball game at that point. So there's a lot of pressures, a lot of ambiguity. Where am I going to go to college? Am I going to be in my city? Am I going to be in my state, in another country potentially? What should I study? I'm going to make this decision. This could affect the rest of my life. All these decisions seem like the biggest decisions, and they are important decisions. There's no doubt about it. All my decisions have been very intentional and deliberate. But all these things can become stressors and create stress on ourselves, and to the point that we become paralyzed by everything that's going on. And so you end up not making any decision, or we make the quote unquote wrong decision because we just don't have that clarity of mind and that thought to be calm about it and say, okay, let's try and focus on what am I trying to solve for in this part of my life and that part. Instead of all this cross wiring that happens in our brain, let's just think about it in a structured approach and with a calm mental approach. So that's what I benefited from. And I remember the days or the weeks, as I said, which I weren't regular with my practice, my brain would feel real cross-wired. I'll be like, why? I just can't think of anything. I can't do my homework right. I get stressed out by thinking about universities and applications and all. Where do I start? Come back to the practices, calm the mind down, calm the nervous system down. And then all of it just suddenly starts to become clearer. You know, it's so much easier to make those decisions.
That's super. I like that tip. Back to Sky. Very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now the next question is from one of our Sky teens again. He says, his name is Namit. In fact, Namit says, Namit is a high schooler also now. Has Sky made your athletic performance better? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. The simplest way is energy. Just having the energy and constant. It felt like I was if some of you have seen those advertisements on TV or one, like a Duracell bunny or an Energizer bunny, you know, I just could keep going. I didn't have that fatigue that would come out normally, just from hours and hours of practice every day. So that was the easiest way where I saw it. The days I did my meditation, my breathing, I had a lot more energy to get through practice and actual performances. The second was just, I think, you know, as I said earlier, like, so cricket was my primary sport. I also played tennis and golf and a bunch of others, but in cricket, you know, we say sometimes that game is 70 to 80% mental and 20 to 30% the physical manifestation. And so when you ask, how did it affect your sports ability and your athletic abilities? The fact that it affected my 70 to 80% of my game was huge. And then the physical is just a manifestation of that mental aspect. So absolutely. I think energy, I think clarity of decision making when I'm on the field, when I'm on a pitch, you know, and you don't think about it in the time. When you're in the pitch, you're not like, okay, I'm glad I did my meditation today, so I should have this decision and it should come clearly. No, it just, like, within a split second, I'm able to make decisions and act. Then at the end of the game, I'm like, oh wow, that went really well. I wasn't even conscious that I'm making all these decisions in real time. Where is that coming from? It's coming from that clarity of thought. It's coming from that calmness in the moment.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. I have a curveball, almost a curveball. All right, let's see. This is from Gayatri. And Gayatri is asking, what can I tell parents when they say, my kid is doing well in school, he's a happy kid, he has his own coping mechanism. Why does he need Sky or she needs Sky?
I'm amazing that they're doing that. You're happy with how they're doing. I think that's obviously a moment of pride for your parents, and great for the kid that if they feel that self-confidence. I think a couple of things. One is, yes, great, they're doing great right now. Life gets more complex. Things come, new pressures arise, unexpected obstacles come their way. It's easy when things are going smoothly, right? Life, when it's just kind of humming along, great. We all know as adults and people who've gone through those experiences, things will pop up that you don't see coming. Situations will change, circumstances will change. You don't want to then realize, oh, now I should start meditating, or now I should start breathing, because then it's too late. The stress has already entered the system. You haven't maybe made the right decision at the right moment of time. You've not necessarily approached that situation with a calm state of mind. To then start meditating is a bit like, you know, why be reactive when you can be preventative, right? It's just like how medicine, you'd rather not fall sick in the first place. You'd rather just eat healthy. We'd rather exercise. Why do we do all these things? So we don't have unhealthy later, right? So the same concept, meditation, breathing, it'll prevent those uncertainties, that insecurities, and whatever might happen when those negative situations arise. So it'll help with those approaches. I think that's like the number one reason for starting early. I think the second reason is these practices and the breathing techniques, they affect you at a different level. It's not always just the physical manifestation. Oh, you know, yes, he's doing great in school. Oh, she's doing fine in her sports. That's great. But when you think about all the hidden aspects of being a human, right? It's our self-confidence. It's how we approach social situations when you walk into a room. It's when you go into the workforce, you go into an interview. How do you conduct yourself? How do you have that presence of mind, that calmness? People start getting drawn to you. You become like a magnet in a good way. If you're regular with these practices, you become like a light bulb. Suddenly you walk into a room and people will want to come up to you. And so it's those little interactions, it's those subconscious things which get so much sharpened by doing the practices. And if the earlier you start, the earlier you can do them, the more it becomes part of your personality. And it doesn't feel as much of a pivot that you have to make later in life. As I often tell my friends, look, I was so lucky I started when I was so young, because I literally feel like I'm wired differently as a result of that. So even the days when I'm having like an off day, it's often not that bad as it could have been potentially. And so the earlier you start, the more your body just gets infused with that goodwill and the effects of that.
That was brilliant. And something else comes to mind, Anant. I went for a job interview, got the job, and I later on asked my manager, how did you make this decision about, hiring me? The response I received was something very, in line with what you just shared. I liked your vibe, she says. There was something so positive, something that said, I think we need to have her here. So yeah, I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Absolutely.
It really changes the energy around you, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Super, super. So we have more questions coming in. How are we doing on time? Can you stay on longer?
Yes,
I know
we can, definitely.
Anant is joining us from DC. He has his friends in the other room waiting to go out for dinner. So, all right, let's take these two questions coming. But thank you, audience, or those of you who are, staying on watching. Really appreciate you being here and asking the questions. They're so relevant, so relevant. Now, Tanish asks, and second question of his, he says, how do you get into a good university? Who better than you to answer that? Go
How
ahead.
do you get into good university? A lot of things go into that. It's obviously your academic grades go into that. Now, how do you max? Okay, let me try and list all the components. So academic grades, extracurriculars, performance in an interview, if they have those, or when you're writing the essay, the application, let's call it the application more broadly, right? So those I would say are the three big components. For each of these, your meditation, your breathing will help no end. Let's take one by one. See, academics, we've talked a little bit about that. It'll help maximize your grades. It'll help you revise better. It'll help you retain information. It'll help you when you're in an exam to stay calm. If you can't quite remember the answer, but you'll figure out a way, it filters down into your academic performance very easily. The extracurriculars, obviously we've talked a lot about athletics here, but it translates into music, it translates into your creativity, it translates into whatever your other passions are. It's the same things. It's the same thing about you're able to be 100% in those. You're able to achieve what you want to achieve, maximize your performance in whatever field it is that you want to dedicate your efforts and time towards. And the third is the applications and the interviews, right? When it comes to writing those essays, when it comes to showing up in person and getting interviewed by some sort of counselor or some admission staff, everything that we've spoken about, it directly translates there. You don't feel as nervous, right? Whenever I've gone into interviews, or now as part of my work, I'm in front of sometimes very senior people that you might see on a newspaper or on TV. I've noticed I don't get phased going into the room. It's a very natural thing. I'm feeling nervous, or I'm meeting this big person. Imagine like a president of the United States walks into a room. Obviously you get those jitters, right? It's that kind of a feeling. And so I've noticed I don't get that as much, because the body stays calm. It's like, hey, this person's another human. I'm a human. Let me try and relate to them as a person. This person is not made out of gold. They're not made out of something which is not in me as well. So you have that ease when you go into those interviews, when you're writing those essays. You're like, hey, I'm very self-confident about who I am. These people will like me if I'm authentic. And that ability to be authentic in your academics, to be authentic in your extracurriculars, and that authenticity in your applications, it all comes out from a lot of what the meditation, the breathing. It'll give you a lot of that. And so really it's that like magic sauce. It made it pretty easy in hindsight. Yes, obviously I'm still human. I felt stressful when waiting for the decision. Oh, will I get in? Will I not get in? But in hindsight, you can sail through it very easily.
Something that you said, Anant, which I want to really point out, that it's not that once you do this breathing, it's not like you're not going to get angry, you're not going to get stressed. That's not going to happen. We are all humans, and these are natural emotions to have. But I think the coping mechanism, the bounce back, which you could get through these, and that's kind of what you touched on, which I really think that, especially when parents come, they come with like, oh, my kid gets angry. Is he going to stop? I'm like, that's not going to happen. That's nature. That's natural. But the bounce back is what we are looking for. So I'm glad you pointed that out. Thank you, Anant.
Absolutely, right? It's instead of being angry for 3 days, it'll be 3 hours. And then after 3 hours, it'll be 3 minutes. And so it's that aspect. It's, as you said, the bounce back, how you channel that energy. You might get angry. Yes, obviously, if something doesn't work, I'm not saying everything's going to work out perfect like you had planned initially. Something will maybe not meet your expectations of an outcome. But then how do you take that energy, that anger or that frustration or whatever that emotion is, and direct it in a positive way, right? Like say this, we talked about the sports example earlier when we lost in the final. Fine, that happened. Yes, I was disappointed. Yes, I was annoyed. Let's redirect that energy in a positive way and let's do something about it.
That's just beautiful. Now, I have a question coming in. There are 3 more questions so far. So the question says, how can parents implement breathing to have a better family environment? Follow on to that one, she says, in a stressful situation, and this is Jitya asking, in a stressful situation, how do I apply breathing? You go ahead, answer that, and then I have something to share as well.
Yeah, I'm sure all of you have some great thoughts on this. I think breathing has this amazing ability to directly and very quickly impact our state of mind and our physical state more broadly. When we're in a stressful situation, what happens? Our body tenses up, our breathing sometimes gets short and sharp and shallow, our brain gets a little fuzzy. We start pacing around the room. We have all this like adrenaline that starts pumping through our body potentially. So all these things are just physical manifestations of stress. So what does breathing do in these situations? If you can take, all it takes is 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute at most, which is nothing. Do a tried and tested breathing technique, and they're very simple. Everyone can do breathing, right? I'm not trying to tell you go play the piano if you've never played the piano before. Everyone can do breathing. We do this from the moment we're born to the moment we die. And so these breathing techniques very immediately can affect your state of mind in a positive way. It can help declutter that mind. You'll relax physically a little bit more. Maybe the heart will not race as much. All these things will then add up. Within a few minutes, you can notice, okay, now I'm in a better position to make whatever decision or handle the situation. Instead of being a stress ball, suddenly we're just a ball, and that's okay. It's okay to be a ball, but not a stress ball, right? A stress ball we just don't think straight. We aren't able to be ourselves. That's the power of breathing techniques. One of the very short anecdote I have is actually one of my former students when I taught her the SKY program. She's in her mid-50s. She got admitted to the ER because she had a blood clot in her vein, and the doctors took her heart rate and her blood pressure, and her blood pressure was something like 180 by 120, which is off the charts. And she told me this afterwards. She said, oh, I remember the breathing techniques you told me, and I just did it for 2 minutes. And within about 5-10 minutes, her heart rate had come, her blood pressure, had returned to normal to like 120 by 70 or whatever it should have been. And so and that's just one breathing technique in one situation. Disclaimer that it may work for some people, it may not work for everyone, but there are these tools out there that are very tangible, very real, and they're not hard, and you don't have to remember to breathe. So why not just use the breath intentionally?
That is just beautiful. Do you want to add something to the family environment part as well?
Yes, the family environment. I think what is a family, right? A family is a collection of individuals, and each individual is unique. And yes, obviously, as families, we grow closer to each other. You you start to understand each other better as humans and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we're still humans, and breathing techniques, ways to de-stress, meditation and breathing is a hugely powerful tool. There are other ways of achieving the same outcome as well. Finding that thing that works for your family, which is, hey, let's just take a minute here. Maybe we're starting to argue. Maybe we're you're traveling, right? This often happens when people are traveling. You're in an airport and something's happened at the travel experience. Someone's getting messed up. Everyone, like, one person of the family may be like really annoyed and angry and just snapping at each other. The other one's crying. We've got someone else who's just not caring. We have all these personalities in our families and various situations. But taking it back to, okay, let's just calm down. What do we often say? Calm down, right? Or in our heads, we tell people, just calm down. How you can achieve that state of calm is breathing. How you can actually avoid that entire situation in the first place. If people have been meditating regularly and breathing regularly, the volatility of some of those situations goes down dramatically. And so often that's what I've found in family environments. I think, Radhika and Nitisha, you're obviously better equipped than I am to talk about some of these scenarios. But at the end of the day, that's what I remember is we're all a collection of individuals. It's not as if, oh, my family is a personality. We are a collection of personalities and we're a collection of individuals. And so if each individual takes responsibility for their own mind and their own state of mind and emotional state of mind, that collection of individuals becomes harmonious and peaceful as well.
Very nice, Anant. The last question. I think this is a mom. She's asking, my kids have done the SKY too. They were 7 when they did it as well. But
amazing.
How do I urge and convince them to practice it daily? I think we've spoken about it a bit.
It is.
Would you add some more?
I was one of those kids. I definitely had, weeks, months sometimes where I wasn't practicing, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. If I go back, I would have told myself, why aren't you practicing? But I was that kid. I said things came up. I didn't fully understand it. I was like, whatever, you have all these things that come up and questions that get asked. One was the role of the parent. I think the parents, don't underestimate your ability to be that role model for your children. For me, I was very lucky that my mother was very regular with her practices. And so I saw her doing it. And yes, I didn't do it every day as a result. She was doing it every day, but I said, oh, like clearly a subconscious level, I saw that she sees value in this and she is doing this regularly. There's something there. Because if children look up to their parents as role models in all aspects of life, whether we like it or not, parents are the role models for their children. So why not this aspect, right? They're looking up to you subconsciously in so many ways. If they see you doing the practices regularly, yes, it may not happen overnight. But it may take a few weeks. It may take a few months. It may even take 1 or 2 years. That's okay. As long as they have that bedrock, that foundation to know, like, look, my parents valued this. They saw value in this. There's clearly something here. Maybe I should try it out again. So that was one way that my parents did it. And the other way was just enroll them in a course again, right? There's no substitute for being in that environment with people trying to improve themselves, trying to focus on themselves, learning those techniques again. I mean, that's why we as adults do so many courses regularly. We go back and do a silence course. We do another course. We're all natural. Even as a teacher, I will say, I have days where I err in my attitude towards some of these things. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I know this is not me. I should get back to it. And sometimes we need a course as well just to get back. So how can we expect children to maintain that motivation 100% of the time, right? So we as parents and adults have a role to play in that as well. Nishisha, would you like to add something?
No, I think you just nailed it. This is the best way. I mean, being role models. And whenever I have done courses, we have a process where we ask the kids, who do you admire the most? 80% of the kids come up, say mom or dad, always. And, and the mom is like surprised, like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it looks like that, but that's true because they are looking. And I feel like some of the values that I have is because that came from my parents. Like if they valued something, I might have shown like I don't like it, but it does at the subconscious level. It does come inside and you're like, yes, it makes sense. So 100% agreed. If you, the parent who's asking, if you have a practice, please do your practice. You know, they learn. You have to practice before you preach. So I 100% agree with that. So we are at 5:40, Radhika.
And
But
I
you know
think,
what, Anant, I really do want to add that, you know, me and Radhika offer the Sky Kids program, the Sky Teens program too. But we definitely want you to be interacting with some of our kids and our teens, because, you know, I mean, this is more like parents, and I know there were a few handful of teens who were there, but I think this is so inspirational, and I'm really happy that people like you are coming forward and, you know, sharing your journey, because we as teachers and parents can say so much, but when you come and, you know, bring in those wisdom, like how it can help you in college application or how it can help you in your sports, that just takes it to the separate different level altogether. So I'm really, really excited that we have all these resources that we can tap into, inspire kids and all that. So this was good. This was really good. So thank you, Anant, and thank you, Radhika, for hosting this.
thank you, thank you, thank you, Anant.
Of course.
All right, with that, informative session, learned a lot from the session. Thank you, Babita, for sharing that. Thank you, thank you. We will do more such sessions. The series is now titled what? My Sky Journey. In fact, Anant had a beautiful title also. He said, Fly with Sky. Isn't it truly fly with Sky? I mean, look at him, accomplished, so young and so accomplished. That's super inspiring. And it's very true. Kids, more than what they hear you say, they are watching you. And parents on the call, if you've not done the Sky program yet, Anant and I are both offering courses. Come join us, right? And all of the kids, come for follow-ups, come repeat your courses, stick with your practices. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Anant. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.